Welcome back to the March South, and today we've got another product review to go over, and what we're talking about today are the SX fully flocked mallard decoys with UV vision. I previously had done a review on the Avian X shaker decoys, and I'm going to use the same general scale minus some of the categories because, I mean, decoys are fairly simple. They don't have a lot going on with them, so we're going to kind of cut out one of the categories and just make a little bit more of a truncated list. So before we get into the decoy itself, I'm going to talk about the disclosures. So I don't have any relationship with SX decoys. I bought everything you see on the table from my own money. There's no Patreon support, there's nothing, there's only my own funds, and so that's what I use to purchase all of the decoys that I have. So with that out of the way, we'll just jump right into the first category, and I'll put like up here some banner that has my little Excel spreadsheet with the categories and all that fun stuff, so you can kind of view it as I'm talking. But cost is, I mean, it's always the first thing that people use to make a choice on purchasing a decoy. And realistically, of all the other offerings that I've gone through a few. I haven't gone through an exhaustive search of every single decoy that you could possibly buy, but I have put quite a few similar offerings, including what I consider to be like the staple, which is the Cabela's North Flight decoys. I mean, if you're going to go to a store, try and pick up something for your first time going duck hunting, you're probably going to pick up something like that because they're pretty cheap, they're relatively available, and honestly, they're pretty decent. I mean, when you're trying to get your first set of decoys, you're not going for, at least you're not typically going for the most expensive and the Gucci kind of stuff that's out there. You're looking for something that's just going to work and doesn't break the budget, because at the end of the day, people who are just starting out may not like it, so they're gonna choose a decoy that makes sense for them, and that North Flight makes sense. So I'm kind of roughly basing everything off of that, but realistically my cost scale is always done relative to other offerings, and so if that ends up being the cheapest, then it kind of establishes like the baseline. And in this case, these decoys scored a 2 out of my 5-point scaling system, if you remember from my Avian X video on how I explain this kind of stuff. But it's all relative to the other offerings, and they are a bit more expensive. So at the end of the day, when you buy a fully flocked decoy, you're going to pay a little bit more for them. You kind of know that because it takes a lot more work to get all of the little fuzziness on here that you see, and making sure that the color comes through so it actually looks like a mallard or a hen. So you pay a little bit more for a fully flocked decoy. Now, you're also paying for a special paint with these, and we'll get into that in the last category, but that's one of the reasons why these are expensive. I'm not explaining it away. Remember, it's a relative scale based on all the other offerings. So 5 would be the cheapest, and 1 or 0 would be the most expensive. So, I mean, cost is kind of self-explanatory. These are based on cost per decoy rather than overall cost, because again, how much you pay for one of these is more relative than comparing a pack of 12 to a pack of 6. So everything is cost per decoy. We'll get into quality. So it's really hard to get anything other than a 3, at least higher. You can always go lower on my scale, and the reason I say that is because, look, if you get it out of the box and it's damaged, there's obvious flaking to the paint, and like some of the holes aren't even drilled for the decoy loops and things like that. There's a bunch of excess flashing, or like there's no weight in here because the back fell off and all the sand fell out or whatever. That's only going to decrease your score, because it's like I shouldn't have to deal with that as soon as I buy a brand new decoy. So really, you get a 3 unless I found something egregiously wrong with the decoy, or minor, something I feel like it was going to be an annoyance. So they got a passing grade for coming out of the box. I mean, nobody got to see that, but they look awesome. I mean, these actually have been out with hunting with me for a season. Granted, my seasons are pretty short because I have young children, so I don't have a lot of time to dedicate towards hunting. But I mean, the flocking didn't really come off, and everything still looks pretty good even after a full season. There's still some like fuzzies from whatever that was floating in the water, but again, quality, it makes the grade because they came in exactly as they should. Didn't have to do anything. Hook a decoy weight up to it, throw it in the boat, throw it in the kayak, throw it in the water, go hunt over it. Durability. So durability wise, I was worried that the flocking was going to start rubbing off. Honestly, it held up a lot better than I thought, and I wasn't trying to be nice to these decoys, but I also wasn't abusing them. So I threw them into my kayak on top of each other with other decoys on top of them, pushing them in and out, rubbing them against each other, and the flocking did get a little scuffed. I mean, you can see some on the head up here and over here, because I mean, like those hard points where they touch up against each other and rub when you're, you know, shipping or driving them around and whatnot. It is just going to wear, but honestly, it held up a lot better than I had thought it was going to, because I was thinking that I was going to see like big scuff marks by the end of the season, and realistically, I haven't seen much of anything other than like where I obviously drug this across something sharp because it's into the plastic, and like that would happen with any decoy, that specifically, right? Some of these little flat spots in the flocking really aren't that bad, and they're not going to make that big of a difference. I mean, I've seen some birds land into decoy spreads that are kind of crappy. I mean, they don't seem to make that big of a difference sometimes if they really want to be there. It's more of an aesthetic thing, but just having the ability to take some of that sheen off on the cold days when you've got water on them and they don't freeze is a nice feature. So, I mean, that's really what the flocking is there for, is to kind of knock down any sheen coming off of the decoys. So honestly, they seem to hold up pretty well. I gave them a 3.5 because they held up better than I expected in terms of the flocking. So I felt like that was a positive. Like they did a good job adhering the flocking to the decoys, and the paint still looks good after a season. So I mean, that's a pretty good thumbs up to me. Next category is appearance. Now, appearance is a subjective category for pretty much everyone, and the reason I say that is because how can you really tell what a duck is gonna like? This decoy might look amazing to me, and I think this is the coolest thing ever, but a duck might look at it and go, what on God's green earth is that? That does not look like a duck. So I could think that this thing looks amazing and it's immaculate and perfect, but ducks don't really care. So this number 6 category is sort of subjective. I mean, I think they're pretty accurate in terms of anatomy. They do look a lot like mallard hens sitting on the water. I mean, so does this decoy too, but I mean, this older one aesthetically it leaves a little bit to be desired, but it's also, you know, older technology, which is why it turned into a test bed for another project that I'll talk about at some point later. But I mean, these are probably some of the nicest decoys that I have. They look great. So I mean, I gave them a 5 because I feel like they're some of the best looking decoys I've ever purchased. So again, it's a relative scale. Maybe something will come along that looks even better than these, and this no longer is a 5, it's a 4.5. But for now, I think they look great. And honestly, after, you know, that first hunt, ducks didn't seem to mind. They didn't flare over them, so they're clearly acceptable from the standpoint of another duck. So I think you know, I'm going to justify my 5 for appearance. The last thing that I want to talk about is the feature score, because it's like, you know, cool whiz bang features is kind of, I put this category in here so that if you had something that was supposed to differentiate this decoy from others, that you had something to judge it against, and that's kind of what this category is for. And the score is a 4, and the reason I gave it only a 4 was because the special feature that these decoys have is very hard to verify if, number 1, it works, and number 2, it looks like what it's supposed to look like. Because at the end of the day, I can't see any ultraviolet frequencies, and I don't know any human that can. I mean, we have UV lights, but at the same time, that doesn't really look like it should to us. I mean, I don't know if that looks, we go back to the previous appearance category. I don't know how it's supposed to look like to a duck. I really don't. I mean, at the end of the day, if I put a UV light on this, which I'm about to do here in a second, but I don't know if it's looking the way that it's supposed to. It's one of the hardest things to confirm whether or not it's working, or whether or not it actually does work in attracting more birds. So it's a cool feature, don't get me wrong, but it's hard to verify, very difficult to verify, because it's not like they really are publishing where they put the UV paint, how much it is, what it's supposed to look like, because, you know, in some ways that's an advantage from SX Decoys. If they have this down pat and it looks exactly like it's supposed to, maybe that gives them an edge over another decoy. So it's a really hard feature to confirm, and you know, we'll get into looking at these decoys under UV light here in a second, at least with the limited tools that I have, and kind of get some idea of what they're after with this UV vision, because I mean, it does make sense. There are bird species out there that can see in other frequencies than humans can, and so having decoys that look like ducks, especially in multi-spectrum, maybe that's enough of an advantage to help you out. So I don't know if it's the deciding factor on whether or not a duck's gonna flare or not, but again, one season in, birds didn't seem to mind it. I mean, it didn't also seem like they were more attracted to my decoy spread. If anything, I think that was more placement and I'm going to say position, like where I was, you know, relative to the X. So I don't know. It's hard to tell. This is an interesting one. So we're going to turn the lights off here. I'm going to pull out the UV light, and then we're going to take a look at what these look like under the UV light, and maybe this will show up on camera. This is going to be a pretty iffy part here. All right, so hang on a second. I got to turn on the UV lights, and I got two different lights here, and one of them is kind of dull and sort of purple. It doesn't really show much, and I don't know how much this is going to show up on camera. It's really hard to tell, but I mean, when I look at the hen, it doesn't particularly look like there's a lot of detail to it, which I kind of expect. You know, hens are more drab. They're really not going to stand out. I mean, it looks like there's, in some of the bottom features, there's a little bit of UV reflection in here, because you can kind of see like this glows, right? This foam urethane that I got on the outside of this decoy when I was filling it with foam glows. It absolutely glows a unnatural color. And this has just this ever so slight bluish tinge to it. And I can't tell if it's from the flocking itself, but there's not a lot of like fuzz that glows the same color. It might be UV paint. Again, I don't know what it's supposed to look like. So maybe that's what it's supposed to be. And I just don't know any better. So I'll give you another look at it with a different light. This one is a little better, I think, in terms of brightness and spread and how much like area the light covers, but this one actually makes it a little harder to see that slight amount of difference between some of the small features, but at least it'll give you some idea of, yeah, it does react ever so slightly, and there is some down in like the what look like the features of the feathers. So there is some paint on here that's reflecting, and then also some fuzzies that apparently got picked up, which glow kind of light blue. We'll move over. We'll do the same light first on the drake. So here, the head looks very different with this light than it does with the other one. Like this one looks like a dull purplish color to me right now, which kind of matches up with the color of the lens and the lights. And it doesn't look very green. And when I turn on the other one, you'll see a difference. I'm pretty sure this will show up on camera. But if you look at the shoulders glow a little bit more. But again, it's hard to tell, especially with this light, because I mean the color on here, this gray, when it's reflecting the UV light, you know, all of this kind of looks like a little shade of purple, and when you look at it over here, there's like a slight blue color, and when you come back over here, the purple kind of drowns it out. So I don't know if the white, when you're using this light, is actually, or the gray is showing any of that UV through, because the pictures that I've seen of UV ducks show a lot of this gray and white is supposed to be highly reflective to UV, and you know, it's it's just hard. It's really hard to tell if there's really much of anything going on in here. Like I said, very difficult feature to verify. And then underneath this light. So now the head looks very different in this light, and it looks more brown and green with, you know, again, some of those blue fuzzies coming through. And then when you look at it, I think this shows a little bit better definition to that gray, where you can kind of see like the pattern down in the bottom. And again, I don't even think you can see this on camera, to be entirely honest with you. I can see it, but I have no idea if you will. And that's why I said this is a very difficult feature to verify. And, you know, even the tail doesn't glow as brightly as I thought it was going to. In fact, I don't think there's any flocking right there. No, there's not any flocking right there that I notice it. I was kind of expecting this to glow at least a little bit more, but my expectations versus reality and what it's supposed to look like, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cool feature, but very difficult to verify. And I mean, I like these decoys. I will absolutely buy more of these. I like these decoys a lot, don't get me wrong. But that UV vision, I'm not sure is really a great differentiator. Like, don't go out and buy it just because of the UV vision. I don't have any proof that does much of anything. If you want a good looking decoy that's going to knock down sheen, I mean, I think that the flocked version without the UV vision is a great option. Plus, you end up saving a little bit of cash when you do that. But I don't know. Maybe somebody out there who has more time than I do can take a couple of spreads and do direct comparisons. But man, how do you prove that, really? How do you prove it? I love stacking every single advantage that you possibly can in your favor when you're hunting, but this is a really difficult one to even attempt to verify. I mean, I might be giving it a little bit too much with that 4.0 score, but I mean, it's a cool enough feature that I felt like it really needed at least a score that was better than a 3.5. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you guys tell me what you think. I don't know if you saw much of anything. Maybe you have your own experience with UV vision, because this isn't the only decoy that's ever used it. You know, there are people that sell UV vision paint for decoys, and people can put it on their own decoys. So, you know, at the end of the day, leave a comment. You know, to let me know what you think of these decoys, whether or not any of my scores are justified, or this UV vision is the coolest thing you've ever seen, and it's actually way better than I give it credit for. But I mean, as of what I've seen, I could take it or leave it. I mean, I like the flock decoys. The UV vision is cool, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure that, you know, it's worth the extra money, especially compared to just a normal flock decoy. So I mean, yeah, you guys should let me know what you think. See if I got it wrong, and you know, we'll see how the rest of my scores stack up, because this is my my first decoy review, and at least non-motion decoy, my first decoy review, and we'll see where this whole like chart kind of evolves as we get new product in for evaluations. So hope you guys enjoyed the video today. I tried to keep it a little shorter than normal, but I did talk quite a bit, so we're gonna end it here, and you know, we'll see you next time.